Absolutely delighted that this morning I am joined with someone who's quite legendary in the world of music. It's John Halsey, who was in the band The Ruttles quite a long time ago. So good morning, John, and thanks for joining me on Suffolk Sound this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
How are you doing today?
I'm all right, just peeling some apples.
Okay, so Phil Jackson, my old friend Phil, put me in touch with you because you've been working together for some time. So you're about to release an album in September. But before we talk about that, can you just fill us in a little bit about your career? Because you've had quite a lot of different experiences. I think you were in the Ruttles, who were a Beatles parody band. Also, you played for Lou Reed on his iconic album Transformer because you're actually a drummer. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. And now a singer.
So go on then, just give us a little potted history about the life of John Halsey.
Well, I started playing drums when I was about 13. That's a long, long time ago. The days of the Everly Brothers and Little Richard and early Elvis sort of stuff. And went on to join various bands, and then I ended up in a band called Timebox. And Timebox had a hit record with a four-season song called Begging. And not that big, but it was a hit record.
Yeah.
And then the band progressed and improved musically, and in the end, we called ourselves Pato, and we became what was known as a progressive rock band. But we were very jazz sort of influenced, and we were together for 6 years and went all over the world. As I always say, always the bridesmaid, never the blushing bride. We were always the support band. We went all over the world, and then after 6 years of being in the back of a van, we decided to go our separate ways, and everyone got on in the business, and I became a drummer, a freelance drummer, and ended up working with lots of people like Joan Armatrading, Joe Cocker, Roy Harper for a couple of years, Joe Brown for a couple of years, and then session work as well with lots of different people in studios. If I was to tell you all the people I've worked with, you'd think, he's the sort of bloke that can't hold down a good job. and then one time I was working with Neil Innes. I worked with Neil on and off for about 40 years until his death a few years ago. And we did lots of things together. And we had a band together that was called Fatso because everyone was vertically challenged for and so it was called Neil Innes and Fatso, and we used to go out and do college gigs and club gigs and pub gigs, and we went out and did everything.
Yeah.
And that was when Neil was getting together with Eric Idle, and they were recording the Rutland Weekend television series.
Yeah.
So they got Fatso, who were all session players, really. It was a good band with good players in it. We did all the music for both series of Rutland Weekend Television, and part of Rutland Weekend Television was a skit on the Beatles. Neil wrote a Beatles song, and we filmed it to be like a sort of a hard day's night, running around in the field and doing silly things. And it was shown on Saturday Night Live in America and got an incredible reaction. So the guy who made Saturday Night Live said to Eric Idle, why don't you do a film of the rise to fame of the Ruttles, which of course paralleled the rise to fame of the Beatles.
Yeah.
So Neil wrote about 30 songs. Took him a year without listening to any Beatles records. He wrote about 30 Beatles songs, and we recorded about 15 of them that were all used in the film. And Eric wrote the script for the film, and there was lots of stars in the film.
Yeah.
George Harrison and John Belushi and
Wow.
all lots of American stars, because it was mainly aimed at the American market. And so that was 50 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Neil said, let's go out and do some gigs as the Ruttles. So
Yeah.
Eric didn't want to do it. Ollie unfortunately died, so Ollie didn't do it, the guitarist. And we never really had a proper bass player. And Ricky Fattar was working with the Beach Boys, and then he's been working ever since with Bonnie Raitt. He's a drummer as well. And so we put together a band, and with Neil and myself and various musicians. At one time we had Mark Griffiths playing in the band, who's the bass player with the Shadows and works with Cliff for about the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And Mickey Simmons, who did all the keyboard playing on Tubular Bells and things like that. And we have had various musicians. And the last version of the band had Phil Jackson playing keyboards. And Neil always used to pull my leg and say, "You should make an album," because he thought my voice was so appalling. And everybody else used to join in, goading me to make an album. So anyway, as the years went past, Phil, a prolific writer of Christmas songs, wrote one. And he said, "Can you sing this Christmas song I've written called Don't Knock the Pudding?" Don't Knock the Pudding was all about a man living in fear of his family all hustling around in the kitchen at Christmas. He had a fear of having the Christmas pudding knocked on the floor. And I said, "Yeah, I can sing," because Phil wanted it sung in a slightly London accent. You know what I mean? Cool, blimey, up the apples and pears. And we recorded that song, and he said, "Let's record some other songs as well." So we did. Songs from my youth, and songs from early days, and songs from when radio first set foot on the human planet. And so here we are. Isn't it a lovely day?
It's beautiful. So the album coming out in September is Songs of the Donkey Shed. Does the single come out at the same time as the album?
Well, the single can be heard now on something I don't understand. You can click on your computer and you can watch the video that we made and listen to the single, which is an old Max Bygrave's hit called, remind me what it's called.
Out of Town.
Out of Town, yeah.
Okay.
Like, if you look up Max Bygraves, see how many hits he had, it was remarkable. He had loads and loads of big hit records.
I do remember him.
Way before, I think probably way before Cliff.
Yeah, I do remember Max Bygraves. I'm that old. So we're gonna play Out of Town now. So it's your debut on Suffolk Sound Radio, and also there's a link to the video and the track on my Facebook page, which is Leanda at Suffolk Sound Radio. So you can go there and listen to John's new single, which is available now, and look out for the album, which is coming out in September. So one last thing I quickly have to ask you, John, before we run out of time, and that is, how did you get the nickname Admiral? Very quickly.
There was an admiral, an American admiral with the same surname as me, Admiral Halsey. He was famous for being involved with the Battle of the River Plate.
Ah, there we go. So
Admiral Halsey. Nothing to do with the Paul McCartney hit, Admiral Halsey and is it Uncle Albert and Admiral Halsey? I'd like to say it was.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, John. Thank you so much. And I wish you lots of success with the album. And would you like to introduce the single? Because we're going to play it right now.
And now, here he is, the most stunning admiral in Christendom. Admiral Halsey, Admiral John Halsey, singing Out of Town.
Thanks so much, John. Take care, and thanks again for joining us on the show. Bye-bye. Bye.
Spring starts to spring, the cuckoo starts to sing. A song that takes the edge off winter's frown.